Welcome to LaTour Retirement Talk. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with the man who has a plan for you and your finances. That's right, Jim Margraf is here. Jim, still no Josh this week. We've got to get after that guy and get him back on the show.
I know. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
But, this week he's actually with Gradient.
Yeah.
It's a number of people with Gradient. And so, that's something that, here as investment advisors that we really pride ourselves on is being able to talk to the portfolio managers
Yeah.
that manage our clients' funds.
Yeah.
So, Joe and Josh, that's what they're both there with Gradient people this today. So
Yeah, Gradient Investments and Gradient Financial.
Yep.
They're at another conference. They've had a couple in a row now, but it's there's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about.
There is.
I know. I think we're going to talk next week about the big beautiful bill. That's something we should touch on. There's a lot of changes in that. We're starting to see how things are washing out now that it's passed, and we're learning everything that's in there. Finally, 970 pages worth of a bill.
So some nice evening reading.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good things in there, but man, the word big is appropriate for this bill. I don't know how beautiful yet, but it is big. It is big. There's always good and bad in these things. They always add a lot of pork to them, don't they?
That's seems to be a specialty of politicians. Adding a whole lot to these things, but
it's crazy.
Big, most of the bills that they pass for you and I, we would consider all of them, I think, pretty big.
Right.
This one especially so. But like you said, beautiful. Yes, in some cases, and some cases maybe not so beautiful, but that's your standard, the politics of what we deal with today. So
it's the politics of dancing, as they say, or politics. It's the politics of politics is what it is.
There you go.
Well, hey, Jim, I know we have a big show planned. We're talking about Aunt Irma today, and everyone has that one maybe meaner aunt who's a little mean. That's Irma, right?
It is. You've heard us talk about Uncle Sam before and how he's not really your uncle, right? Well, we're talking about Irma, and she's not really your beneficial aunt. She's here to take some things away from you. And I want to talk about it because it catches a lot of people by surprise. Now, I know that, I'm on the financial side here at LaTour, and we do have some people that work on the insurance side and deal with Medicare, and Irma does deal with Medicare. Right. So what is Irma? I think we need to start off with exactly what that is.
Yep.
But Irma is an income-based Medicare surcharge that kicks in if your income goes above certain thresholds. So for the high income earners out there, their Medicare is going to cost more. And here's the real reason that Irma is not so friendly, I should say another way to put it, is just because you have that extra surcharge doesn't mean you get some extra benefits. It's just costing you more for the same benefit. But it's how we fund things like Social Security and Medicare for people in this country. They are designed around those who make more. They get the benefit does not increase just because you made a lot more in your life. So, but one of the big things with Irma, and a lot of people don't realize this, is it's based on your income 2 years ago. So, Tony, we're recording this in 2025. So if someone is paying Medicare here in 2025, it's based on their 2023 income. So, what did you make in 2023? Now, I started out by saying, we're on the investment side, I don't get into the ins and outs of Medicare on a day-to-day basis. But what you do with your investments can affect your Medicare premiums. So there are ways of doing things with your investments to perhaps avoid some of the Irma fees and extra surcharge. And so that's why I want to talk about it. First off, let people know that it is out there and we need to pay attention to it. But then also, what can we do to potentially reduce the Irma charges or perhaps avoid them altogether. So I
Yeah.
think those are some important things to look at. I don't know about you, but I like to avoid surcharges.
Yeah, for sure. And Irma can be one that sneaks up on people, like you alluded to. A lot of people don't know about Irma and how
No, they
it
don't.
works. And just to reiterate, Irma, of course, the government loves their acronyms and
Mhm.
things. It stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount.
Very good.
If that's a mouthful, so
Yes,
we
it
just
is.
say on Irma. Um, but you're right. There are ways. A lot of people don't realize what Irma is. Basically, is if you have too much taxable income in retirement, if
Yep.
your taxable income based on a certain calculator
Right.
gets above a certain point,
Yep.
there's a government formula, and if your taxable income is above a certain point in retirement, your Medicare premiums, your Medicare
Mhm.
Part B premiums that everybody has to pay will
Right.
go up. I think the standard premium is $185 a month right now,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
So
and it can go up quite a bit, right?
it can go up quite a bit. I've got a chart here in front of me with the charges here. And I mean, we're talking for your Part B premium, we're talking about a surcharge of $443 a month for the
Wow.
high income earners. So you're
Wow.
already paying 185.
Right.
And now we're talking about adding 443 on top of that and 90 cents. So
So
you're
about
looking at
$600. It goes from
$620.90.
So it can go from 185 to 628 if you're not careful. And a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to be working. I'm not going to have that big taxable income. But
Right.
you can talk to us about that. We've
Yep.
talked a lot about how you can have taxable income in retirement, and most people do unexpectedly, right?
You sure do.
Because all their retirement accounts are taxable when they pull that money out, most of them.
Well, see, the thing is, for decades, people have talked about putting money into your 401ks and your IRAs. Now,
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you to stop.
Right.
However, we do need to be aware of some things that can affect us in our retirement years. And this is one of them. And it can be a big one. It catches you by surprise. And here's the thing, Tony. Even if you have a one-time income spike, such as the sale of a business, right? I've sat down yesterday with some potential clients that have a business that they're selling, and hey, this is going to be an issue for them now. And here's the really, if you want to say it this way, the cool thing about this: if you have a one-time spike, the IRMA is refigured every single year. So let's say I have an extra high income. I had an in here in 2025. Well, that's going to affect my 2027 Medicare premium, right? But if that one-time spike is only in 25, in 2026 I go back to my regular income, well then my Medicare premium will go back to what the regular amount in 2028.
So it's not a permanent increase.
Correct.
They look at it on a year by year basis.
Year by year basis, but it's always 2 years delayed.
Always 2 years delayed. So they always look at 2 years ago,
Right.
what was your situation 2 years ago?
Yeah, so they're paying attention to that. And so we need to as well. Now, on the financial side, people say, well, why are you paying attention to this? Well, what if I have some very large IRAs, right? And I I want to do what I can to avoid paying taxes in my retirement years. So I want to convert those from IRA to Roth. Okay. Well, that's going to increase my modified adjusted income for that year that I do that conversion, because whatever amount I convert is going to show up on that bottom line on that 1040. Okay. So that Roth conversion is going to, if I'm doing this and I'm age 63 or later, this is going to affect my Medicare premiums 2 years later.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people that are, getting into their late 50s and into their early 60s, I talk to them a lot about doing those Roth conversions and getting them done before the year you turn 63, because that way we can completely avoid the IRMAA charges once we're on Medicare. So, a lot of people don't see that, but now it's not just for Part B. It's also for Part D, which is your drug plan as well. So it can affect that. And so looking at all this, I think is important. The IRMAA used to be adjusted for inflation. It's not anymore. So it's been frozen for years, but they did add a higher income tier that won't adjust again until 2028. So that's already written into the law. So it makes some strategic income planning a lot more important because, as I move forward, at some point, if I'm in those top brackets for IRMAA, I might want to pay attention to this because that charge is going to change from 2028 into 2029. So these are things to be thinking about, looking at, especially if I'm in one of those higher income brackets.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, obviously the tax implications are enormous, but your analogy there, so maybe what you want to do to prevent that happening, like if you have a lot of money in IRAs, what you want to do, what you're saying is maybe start converting some of your tax deferred accounts into Roths before you hit retirement or hit that age, right?
That is exactly what I'm saying. It's a huge benefit. Now, do want to just take a moment here to stop and say, hey, a lot of people still get mixed up between the IRA and the Roth. It's a common confusion, point of confusion for a lot of people. So the IRA is is that retirement account that you put funds into. IRA stands for individual retirement account.
Yep.
You put funds in there. It's in your name only. I have a lot of spouses that say, well, can't we be joint? No, it stands for individual.
Yeah.
Make your spouse a beneficiary, the primary beneficiary, but it's just yours. And you put funds in there, and that amount gets taken off your modified adjusted gross income on your taxes for that year when you put it in there. Okay. Now, the thing is, that is growing, however it's invested, and hopefully it's invested awesome. It's growing. And when you go to pull those funds out after age 59 and a half, you're going to pull it out and pay taxes on those funds, all the funds that are in there, because what you put in plus the growth is all 100% taxable dollars. Now, with the Roth, you put funds into the Roth IRA and you don't get the tax deduction in the year that you put the money in, that you make that contribution. However, when you go to take those funds out, so long as you've met a couple of rules, there's a 5-year rule and there's the age 59 and a half rule. So if you've had a Roth for more than 5 years and you're past age 59 and a half, you get to pull those funds out tax-free. And here's the really cool thing when it comes to Medicare. It doesn't show up on your modified adjusted gross income. See, that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
It's about what is on that bottom line of that 1040 is on that modified adjusted gross income line. If I can reduce that by having my income coming from Roth, then I'm not going to be as affected or affected at all potentially by these IRMAA charges. And here's another thing. I'll just throw this in here as well, because we oftentimes talk about Social Security. When I get income from a Roth, it doesn't affect the taxability of my Social Security either. So this is all what we do with our IRAs, our Roth IRAs, our 401ks, Roth 401ks, affects my Social Security and my Medicare. Yeah. People think that each one of these things is an island all by itself. Oh, I'll just go talk to this Medicare person. I'll just go talk to this person about Social Security. And then I got my financial guy who I'll talk to about my investments. And I got my insurance guy. But all these things really are very, very much related. And what I do with one affects the other. And can be a compounding effect depending on what I'm doing.
You can make really costly mistakes because of it and because of things. And you want to keep that taxable income low in retirement because you don't want your Social Security to be taxed, which it can. If that modified adjusted gross income in retirement is too much, the money you're pulling out, right? I mean, that makes a big difference. And you mentioned 401ks, 403bs and TSPs, any type of employer sponsored plan or retirement account, an IRA, Roth. you have to look at the tax implications of that.
Oh, Tony, absolutely. And that's why we encourage, especially younger employees, contribute as much as you can to that Roth.
Yes.
And, it's going to eventually become law. It's already in the works where the employer can contribute to the Roth side as well.
Yes.
That'll be great. And I don't know, we don't know yet if it's going to become mandatory for them to contribute to the Roth side or it's going to be optional. If it is optional, I don't see a lot of employers doing that because they would get the deduction for
The
contributing.
tax break. Yeah.
They don't get the tax break. And, those funds aren't going to stay with them forever. They're coming out. They're becoming your funds. So
sure.
Unless it becomes mandatory, I don't see a lot of them jumping on that bandwagon. But at least if it's an option for you to contribute your portion into that 401k, into the Roth option in there, or 403b, whatever particular employer vehicle that you have, absolutely, I highly encourage it. And the more your income is, you stop and think, you say, well, I would like to get that deduction now. Well, the question is, do I really? Because, hey, if I'm a farmer, let's think of it this way. Do I want to be taxed on the seed I put in the ground or on the harvest I pull out months later?
Yeah, if I had the choice, if a farmer had a choice, hey, you're either going to have to pay tax on the seed or you're going to have to pay tax on the harvest. Yeah, they'd all choose the seed. I'll pay it up front on the seed because the harvest is going to be much bigger. And typically in retirement, the taxes will be more when you're retired. I mean, right now we're in a historically low tax rate, and that's been extended, but they say it's permanent, but that only means it's permanent until the next the next election. Then it could change. So that's the problem with that.
Yeah. And one thing that we've taken to saying around here is that your tax laws are written in pencil, because they are only, like you just mentioned, they're only as permanent as the administration that you currently have. The next administration, the next Congress, they can come in, they can change it. And there are those that are talking about much different outlook on income taxes. People don't stop to think and look at the history of tax rates in this country. But the highest tax rate that we've had on the top income earners was 94%.
Yikes.
Ouch. I mean, that just hurts,
Yeah.
We had 20 years of 90% or higher. We had 50 years of 50% or higher as the top tax rate. So now we're sitting at 37. So like you said, tax rates are on sale. So, I don't know about you, but I like to buy something on sale. It's, it's, there's that old joke, and this guy comes home to his wife and he bought her a present, and he said it was a certain 4-letter word that convinced him to buy this. And his wife looked back at him with a big grin and said it was LOVE. And he goes, I'm sorry, sweetheart. It was SALE.
Sale.
They got a sale. Everybody loves a good sale. And so I would rather pay my taxes on sale rather than wait until some further, unknown administration. I don't know what's going to happen the next 20 years. What's the perspective of those that are in office? I'd rather get those taxes paid off. So at that point in time, if they raise the tax brackets to something much, much higher, I have the potential, if I have my funds in Roth, to be in a 0% tax bracket while still having a decent standard of living to maintain my lifestyle throughout my retirement years.
And not have to worry about my Social Security being taxed or my Medicare premiums going up.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So when we talk about the Medicare premiums, so for married filing joint, we're talking about $212,000, which, is a fair amount of income, but it's not as much as it used to be.
Right.
So with inflation, with the way things are going, and, we need to look at this and realize, hey, $212,000. Now I'm going to pay an extra $74 a month. Okay. Once I get to now, the top tax bracket for the IRMAA is $750,000 a year of income. Now, I know that somebody making $750,000 a year can certainly afford an extra $443 a month, but it's just one more thing that comes in, and there is some planning that can be done to avoid some of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, why leave money on the table that you don't
Right.
have to? And why get yourself into a higher tax bracket? No matter
Yeah.
what level you're at, you want to minimize your taxes in retirement.
Right.
No matter how much your income is going to be in retirement, whether it's $50,000 or $300,000 or $400,000,
Right.
you want to minimize your tax burden. And
Yeah.
the way to do that, all the planning, you have to know how all those pieces fit together: Social Security, Medicare, taxes, investments, insurance.
Yes.
And you look at the big picture and have that box lid with the big picture on it, so you can help them put together all these puzzle pieces. And that is why it is critical to work with a financial services professional like yourself, like yourselves there at LaTour Asset Management. So you have a plan in place
Right.
that will help you meet your goals, and you're not going to make costly mistakes. You're not going to leave any money on the table.
Yes. And, let me just mention one more thing, Tony. When it comes to people that, have had a nice income and they've accumulated so those larger IRAs, what about when you get to, now it's age 73, you have to take those RMDs out. Those RMDs are on that modified adjusted gross income line of your 1040, right? So, what now, if you're charitably minded, what about doing a qualified charitable distribution, right? Instead of going ahead and taking that money and then getting the deduction, go ahead and have the funds go straight from that IRA right over to the charity. It doesn't show up on your bottom line on your tax forms, and the charity doesn't have to pay taxes on it either. Now we can do up to $108,000 in here in 2025 of a qualified charitable distribution. So that's a way to satisfy the RMD and also avoid having that extra $100,000 end up on the bottom line of my 1040. So there are some other things that we can do. So if you're younger, think about the health savings accounts. If that's an option to you, the more you put into that health savings accounts, when you pull it out for a qualified medical expense, it does not show up on the bottom line of your 1040 there. So it's not a part of your modified adjusted gross income. So it's something that can help you.
Yeah, and when you get older or in retirement, you will have a lot of medical-related expenses.
Yes, you will.
And Medicare doesn't cover everything. You'll have hearing aids, you'll have medical equipment, you'll have all sorts of co-pays and premiums to pay, including those Medicare premiums. And an HSA account, if you put money into it now and don't use it, you can carry that with you into retirement and use that as tax-free income. And after a certain age, you can use it on anything, not even just medical related. And you just may have to pay taxes on it at that time if you don't use it for the right thing. But it's the only account in the IRS tax code that goes in tax-free, grows tax-free, and comes out tax-free.
Right.
It's triple tax benefit. And so an HSA is great. Unfortunately, you can only get one if you have a high deductible healthcare plan through your employer, probably, or through the online
the marketplace,
the healthcare marketplace. So a lot of people can qualify, and especially if you're young, you can get that plan. You don't need a low deductible plan because the odds are you're not going to use healthcare insurance as much as older people.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So this is all, looking at all this, it's a part of the financial plan. We don't want to sit here and say, each thing, as I said earlier, that each thing is an island all by itself. So when we sit down with clients, we're asking a lot of questions to find out about the financial situation. What does the income look like? What do we have in those IRAs and 401ks? What are we going to end up having as far as those RMDs? And when we talk about the IRMAA and the extra cost on that Part B, extra cost on the Part D part of your Medicare, we have some people here in our office, and this is what they do day in, day out, is help people out with their Medicare. So, when you're getting close to retirement, you've been putting those funds aside all of your working career. And so you've been in that accumulation stage of your working life. Well, now it's time to make that change, make that switch over as you get close to retirement to the distribution and preservation stage. And these are some of the things we need to look at. Do I move those funds into Roth? What is IRMAA something that's going to affect me in my retirement years? Do I have a plan in place that even lines out what my income is going to be? Because a lot of times, people look at it and they say, yeah, I'm going to have enough income. I've got my Social Security coming in. I've got maybe a pension or some rental income. But how is it going to affect me in a tax manner when it comes to things like IRMAA and other taxes? So having all this written down and sitting down with someone that is a financial services professional and has access to all of these other numbers and helps like this, and is hugely beneficial, because having a plan that takes into account, hey, I'm going to be subject to IRMAA fees unless I do X, Y, or Z over here to adjust my plan.
Right.
I don't know about you, but I would much rather, keep those funds as much as possible. I don't want to send anything extra to, as we said earlier, as we open the show, Uncle Sam and Aunt Irma. We don't want to send any funds to them, as we don't have to.
Right.
So let's plan so we don't have to. But you got to do this in advance. If we wait too long, we don't have the option.
Right. Well put, and so important. So we're out of time, but before we go, let our listeners know, Jim, how they can get a hold of you to make sure they have a plan in place to deal with this.
Tony, just give us a call, set up an appointment. Our phone number is 417-641-3497. And you can also visit our website at LaTourasset.com.
All right. Well, hey, great show today, Jim. Listeners, thanks for tuning in, and viewers, that does it for today's episode of LaTour Retirement Talk with our host, Jim Margraf.